Ethan stood in front of the hallway mirror, adjusting the collar of the shirt he had picked out specifically for the evening. He kept glancing at Emily, who stood beside him nervously fiddling with a small bouquet of daisies, a gift for his mother. For the first time in their relationship, he saw her this anxious. "Everything will be fine," he said softly, trying to reassure her, though he could barely hide the tremble in his voice. Emily nodded, but her eyes darted around the walls as if looking for an escape route. They stepped up to the door. Ethan took a deep breath, squeezed Emily's hand once more, and firmly pressed the doorbell. A few seconds later, a familiar soft footstep echoed down the hallway. The door slowly opened, and there stood his mother, a slender woman with tired eyes and a warm smile, always ready to embrace her son. "Mom," Ethan exhaled, feeling sweat trickle down his spine. "This is Emily, my fiancée." The woman's eyes widened as she looked at the girl in front of her. For a moment, she just stood there, as if struck by an invisible wave. Emily tried to step forward and offer the bouquet, but the mother froze like a statue. Then something no one expected happened. The mother slowly raised her hand and touched Emily's face as if it were her own reflection. Tears began to stream down her cheeks, her eyes glistening with shock and some ancient pain long buried inside. "That's impossible," she rasped. How? How can this be?" Emily opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her legs felt weak, her heart pounded as if it would burst from her chest. Beside her, Ethan looked back and forth between his mother and Emily in confusion. His arms hung limply at his sides. It felt like a nightmare from which he couldn't wake. His mother stepped back, recoiling as though from a ghost. In her eyes flickered memories of the past, youth, mistakes, forgotten promises. Emily felt that pain, even though she didn't know the full truth. Flashes of childhood memories rushed through her mind, how she often felt an odd pull toward unfamiliar faces, how once in a crowd she thought she saw her adult reflection. "Mom," Ethan began to say, but his voice cracked. The woman sat down right there on the threshold, covering her mouth with her hands, staring at Emily in both horror and awe. From deep within, a feeling rose that this meeting was destined, that no coincidence could explain such a resemblance. Emily slowly knelt down in front of the mother. Her eyes welled up with tears. She didn't know what to say, but she could feel that some invisible, unbreakable thread connected them. In that moment, the world around them disappeared. No apartment walls, no neighbors' doorbells, not even Ethan's frightened gaze. Just the two of them, two women, one older, one younger, yet like mirror images. The scene seemed to last forever, time itself coming to a halt. The silence grew heavier, filling every corner of the home. In the mother's eyes was shock, but also a strange tenderness breaking through the fog of fear. Ethan stood nearby, frozen, as if afraid to move and shatter the fragile moment that might either begin something extraordinary or destroy everything he knew about his family and future. After long minutes of silence, the mother finally rose from the floor. She stood slowly, bracing herself against the wall as if all strength had left her body. Her eyes were red from crying, her lips trembling. With a gesture, she invited Emily and Ethan into the living room. They sat down on the old, warm couch where Ethan had often fallen asleep as a child. Emily sat across from them, still clutching the crumpled bouquet of daisies, which now felt completely out of place. The mother took a deep breath and tried to speak. I don't know where to begin. This can't be explained in one evening. But it's like you were made from my reflection." Emily nodded, never breaking eye contact. A strange tremor passed through her, as if her whole body responded to every word the woman spoke. "I met your father when I was 20. The mother began. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "I was a college student and I needed money. That's when someone offered me to take part in an experiment to donate my eggs for scientific research and possible transplants. I thought it was just medicine, just a way to help. I never imagined that a real, living person could come from it." Emily pressed her palms to her face. Everything inside her turned upside down. Fragments of childhood memories swirled in her head. Strange dreams of a woman with the same face. The feeling that somewhere in the world her double existed. Ethan sat, gripping the edge of the couch, his face as pale as the wall behind him. He was hearing this story for the first time, and each word pierced him like a cold blade. Felt like everything was falling apart. Love, plans, the future. Emily tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. Instead of words, she stood up, slowly walked over to the woman, and simply embraced her. The hug was strange and heavy, a mix of pain, astonishment, and a strange kinship. The mother burst into tears on her shoulder, holding Emily so tightly as if afraid to lose her again. After long tears and silent embraces, The three of them sat at the kitchen table. Hot tea stood in front of each of them, but no one touched their cups. The air smelled of daisies mixed with old wood and something bitter, like ancient memories. Emily looked at the woman, feeling their bond grow stronger with every second. The words about donation still echoed in her head. She tried to understand who this woman now was to her. A mother, a genetic source, a part of her soul. For so many years I thought that experiment was just a forgotten episode of my life, the woman said, wiping away tears. I never even knew if anyone was ever born from it. Emily nodded, staring at the floor. As a child, I always felt like something was missing, she said softly. I always believed there was someone out there who could understand me without words. Her voice broke. She closed her eyes to hold back fresh tears. Ethan sat silently, staring at one spot on the wall. He was trying to collect his thoughts, but they scattered like ants. Images flashed before his eyes. His first meeting with Emily, their first kiss, the plans for a wedding, their laughter. Now it all seemed foreign, no longer his. We have to figure out how to go on from here, he finally said. His voice was hoarse. The woman looked at her son with sad tenderness. No one is ever ready for revelations like this, Ethan, she said. But sometimes life puts us exactly where we need to be. Emily looked up at him, her eyes filled with pain and silent pleading. She slowly reached out her hand, but Ethan recoiled, as if burned. I'm sorry. I need to go, he said abruptly, standing up. His footsteps echoed down the hallway like hammer blows. The door slammed shut, and Emily flinched. The mother looked at her and placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll get through this. You're not alone, she whispered. Emily nodded silently, but inside, she knew this was the beginning of the most difficult chapter of her life. A chapter where she'd have to rediscover herself, her roots, and possibly her place in a reality that had just shifted completely. Ethan stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door so hard the echo rang down the corridor. He walked through the street, no longer feeling the pavement beneath his feet or hearing the noise of the city. One question thundered through his head. How do I go on from here? Felt like the whole world had collapsed in one evening. The girl he loved, the one he wanted to build a life with, had suddenly become tied to his mother in the most unexpected and terrifying way. He sat on a bench near a small park, buried his face in his hands, and sat like that for a long time, not noticing the people passing by. Strangers glanced at him with curiosity, but no one truly saw his pain. Memories came flooding in when he first saw Emily at an exhibit, how their eyes met, and how he immediately felt a strange familiarity, like he had found someone who belonged to him. Back then, he thought it was love at first sight. Now, it all felt like a cruel joke played by fate. Meanwhile, Emily and the woman still sat in the kitchen. The mother poured tea slowly. Every movement was careful and heavy, as if she feared shattering the fragile bridge that had just started to form between them. You mustn't blame yourself, she said gently to Emily. None of this is our fault. We're just part of life's strange game. Emily looked up. I don't blame anyone. I don't know how to be with Ethan now. He was everything to me. He was home. The woman slowly took her hand and squeezed it. If your feelings are real, they'll survive this. But first, each of you needs to understand who you really are. Emily lowered her head. Inside, a storm raged. Love, pain, fear, and a strange relief that she had finally learned part of her hidden truth. A few hours later, Ethan did come back home. He looked exhausted, his eyes red. He sat down across from Emily and was silent for a long time. I need time, he finally said. I can't accept all of this at once. But I still love you. Emily nodded quietly. Something inside her stirred. Hope. The next morning, the house seemed to breathe with new life, cautiously, with the shadow of the previous night still lingering. The mother got up earlier than everyone else and made breakfast, trying to keep her hands busy to quiet the chaos in her mind. The air was filled with the smell of warm buns, freshly brewed tea, and something comforting that always reminded one of home. Emily came into the kitchen with a tentative smile. Her eyes were still swollen from crying, but they held a new spark, as if she had finally accepted that her life had changed forever. The mother came to her and hugged her tightly, the kind of embrace saved for someone you've missed your whole life. "You're my daughter, not by upbringing, but by blood," she whispered. Emily broke into tears, burying her face in her shoulder. Ethan came out last. He stood in the doorway watching the scene. There was still pain in his eyes, but also something softer, a tired acceptance. He walked over, looked at Emily, and after a moment of hesitation, embraced them both. At that moment, the three of them were united in warmth where words no longer mattered, only breath and the beating of hearts. Later over breakfast, the mother shared stories of her youth, how she once dreamed, studied, fought. Emily listened to every word, as if filling in the blank pages of her own history. Ethan watched them, and though the pain still lingered, he began to understand that this meeting hadn't broken them. It had given them a chance at something deeper. As breakfast came to an end, the mother looked at Emily and said, "You didn't find us by accident. You were meant to come back." Emily wiped her tears and, for the first time in a long while, smiled sincerely. Her smile was light, pure, and just like the one her mother used to wear. Ethan took Emily's hand. "We'll get through this together, if you still want to," he said quietly. Emily nodded. She knew the road ahead would be long, filled with conversations, doubt, and new discoveries. But now they weren't strangers or just two people brought together by fate. They were a family, bound not only by blood, but by shared wounds and hopes. And in that fragile, quiet morning, they found the beginning of something new, difficult, but real. A life where pain and love were woven together to create something greater than any of them had ever imagined.